Here's the thing. Jeff Waldorf, welcome to the show. I have an amazing guest with me today on this weekend's edition. We've got Mike Figueredo, Humanist Report. I'm sorry if I didn't say that right.
That was perfect, actually.
Yes.
That was great. Yeah.
Nailed it.
On your first try, mind you. So that's really impressive. Like, that honestly means so much to me, Jeff.
I've been trying really hard because, look, if you guys watch me at all or listen to me at all, I butcher names. Like, I'm the name butcher. I've got a knife in my hand, and I'm trying not to use it, but it just happens. Like, and the funny thing about that, by the way, is as I go back, I used to get angry when people would mess up my name, right? Because, like, I was one of those kids, like you guys, you remember in high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure this happened a million times to you as well, so you can relate. Where you get your name over the PA, and they butcher it.
Awful.
Completely.
Yeah.
Like Waldor.
What?
Waldor. Like Waldron. And I'm like, that's not even close.
Yeah.
Like, you're not even trying at this point. But, to be fair, like, my name can be difficult because I had Farron Cousins on for the first episode of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Right, from Ring of Fire. And he's like, I have a hard time with your name. No, wait. No, that's Benjamin Dixon. Sorry. That was in the second episode. He was talking about, because I was on his show afterwards. Sorry, Farron. You're listening. It was Benjamin Dixon. He's like, I'm so sorry. He's like, I butcher names too. He's like, I'm sorry I butchered your name. I was like, you know what? Shit happens. It's fine.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know what?
I'm glad.
Go ahead. As someone with way too many vowels in his name, who should know better, I am one of the worst at butchering names. So I absolutely, I don't feel angry whenever somebody messes up my name. It's just I get extra appreciative if they don't mess it up, but I never expect it. That's, I think, an unrealistic expectation. And in terms of, horrible stories over the high school PA system, so...
Oh, God.
Okay, so I didn't graduate high school. People, I don't know if they know this or not. I got my GED. So when I got my associate's degree in community college, that was kind of like my first, graduation. It was the only time I walked. So my first name gets called as I'm walking. Mm-hmm. I get halfway across the stage, and I have to go back because the lady stops midway, and she needs me to tell her how to pronounce my name. And this is after, we went over it. I wrote it down phonetically for her. Mm-hmm. It was so embarrassing. And as she's doing this, my sister is, screaming, "Yeah, Michael!" So, there's, dead silence. My sister's screaming, and I have to go back. My face was beet red. And
devastating.
Yeah, it was awful. And so, needless to say, I did not walk in future graduation ceremonies. I did not go back for my bachelor's. I did not go back for my master's. And that's not that's not the only reason, but it's definitely, it left a little bit of a mark in my ego because, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a devastating situation.
Yeah,
it's awful. That's awful. and when I get somebody's name wrong, for me, I feel terrible. I feel bad.
Same.
I'm like Donald Trump. I know words. I know the greatest words.
The beautiful words.
The most tremendous, big, beautiful words. Tremendous. It makes me feel so stupid. Like that guy. Oh, why didn't I get this right? And foreign names are the hardest for me. They're the most difficult.
To me, it's vowels. And my name has a lot of vowels. If I see a lot of vowels, I freeze up. And that's why I kind of get it, with my name. Because my name has, a trillion vowels in it. So, if I see a lot of vowels, immediately I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm doomed.
You struggle through it the best you can.
Oh, yeah.
You get on the struggle bus, and you're like, all right, let's do this. Let's just power through it.
Yep.
There's been a couple of times on my show where I look at the name and I'm just like, moving on. I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to try. We're done. We're done with this.
Well, one of the perks for when people sign up to become a member or patron is I read their name at the beginning of the episode, and I feel so bad because some of these poor people's names who are so great, they're supporting the show, so I want to do them good, and I'm just butchering their names, and I feel so bad. But there's if I stop and try to sound it out, it just makes it worse. So I just do my absolute best. And I power through it. Like you said, there's really nothing else that you can do. And most people who get their names fucked up, like me, you're used to it to an extent.
Yeah.
So it's not bad.
Well, we felt it. We understand the pain. And so we get it, and we appreciate that you try.
Absolutely.
Just like you were telling me earlier, you appreciate that I put in the effort to try to do this. And again, I have the same issue with patrons who are wonderful. They support the show. They are literally keeping the show alive right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about this earlier, before the show started, the difficulties of, doing a show on YouTube now, that it's no longer a free marketplace of ideas. It's now basically a corporate sounding board. In they prioritize advertisements and corporations over independent thought, and so an independent media, and it's just it's pretty awful. So we need those people more than ever, and are so thankful.
Yeah, absolutely. To go back to that conversation, like we were looking at, with the election, it's always bittersweet, right? Like, because we're putting in so much work, news breaks constantly, so we're really, like, we don't have as much time. We're always, like, I'm always researching, right. I'm always editing. But at the same time, you get a little bit of a boost, and it really encourages you. Like, you get, that extra subscribers, and it just feels good. You feel like you're being recognized. And, like, right after the primaries ended, like, everything. It's not just, like, us. Everyone has really fallen off of a cliff in terms of views. Really, and it sucks because when I see, like, CNN's page, like, I don't know if you, because I usually go to CNN's YouTube page if I'm trying to find, like, a video to pull for my show. And the views that they're getting are absolutely insane. And just like 5 years ago, I was telling Jeff about this for those listening. Like, all of us in indie media, we were steamrolling Fox News,
crushing it.
CNN, MSNBC. We were getting way more views, way more growth. But all of a sudden, there was that change to the algorithm where they started to prioritize authoritative voices, and we all got fucked. This is not an organic change. It's not like they're just doing better because, they're these multi-billion-dollar companies. I mean, we were beating these multi-billion-dollar companies, but the algorithm shifted. So it's really frustrating because it's like, it really was this underdog story, this David versus Goliath story, where we were fucking killing Goliath. We were winning.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's over. It's over.
Yeah, I was gonna say the party's over, the vacation's over. I don't there's a phrase that I can't reach, I can't get it. Like, it's gone, it floated away. But yeah, it basically is over. The golden story, right? The golden goose. It's like the golden days are over for YouTube, and now we're all struggling. We're hanging on the vine just barely, and doing so by the skin of our teeth and by our audience, who supports us through this time. It is difficult, and I mean, let me get to, I guess, something that's sort of related, and how the media has treated independent news and independent voices. Because look, there's this new documentary out. I haven't had the chance to be able to watch it from Vice. It was about the Bernie blackout. I don't know if you had a chance to be able to watch that or
not yet.
Or
I want to watch it this weekend. I hear it's really good.
Yeah, and I think that is related because we've had this gigantic, like, I don't know, wave of media, of negative, media on progressives and Bernie Sanders and negative attention too. It's like they finally realized, oh shit, these guys are challenging us and they're racking up hella views. We need to put a stop to it. We need to put a stop to them. Not to sound like I'm, like a conspiracy monger, but they really are putting the thumb on the scale, putting their whole bodies on the scale for corporate media and the centrism that it represents.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. And look, people will respond with the counter argument. Well, we need authoritative sources because there's a lot of conspiracy mongering and misinformation,
fake news.
We all get that. Like we understand the need for that. However, when we've been doing this for so long, and we have proven that we are good faith actors, we never intentionally misrepresent stories. We we never conspiracy monger. We deal with facts. I think that we should also be given the same treatment as these companies, right? I mean, like, why should CNN be given priority over us. Even if we don't get priority, just give us an even playing field at a minimum. That's the amount of respect that we should be given for, helping to build up YouTube. I mean, they would be nothing without its content creators. So it's so frustrating. It feels like we have to have some type of alternative. And it was funny initially to watch, these old media institutions try to compete with the newbies because they're flailing. I mean, look at Crystal Liza. That's CNN's attempt at being like a quirky YouTuber, and it's awful. It is awful. He cannot do what we do. I mean, we're seeing with COVID-19, all of these hosts, they try to have these like makeshift studios, but they can't do what we do. It's unique. So they've just been like, we've been kneecapped. They've been pushed through the front of the door, and it's so infuriating to watch. And maybe I'm a little bit bitter, but whenever I see like these celebrities jump in, like Jack Black or John Krasinski, it pisses me off because it's like, no, this is our territory. And we kind of do own it. Like, not to say like, this only belongs to us, but it's like, it's frustrating because, he's trending every single week. And we've made videos that even when we technically should be trending, we're never trending. Like during the net neutrality days, that was like the heyday of the Humanist Report, where a lot of our videos would basically go semi-viral. And, none of them ever made it to the trending page. And it's so infuriating.
I mean, of course, it's by design.
You're right.
Again, they want to silence independent voices because they have no control over our content. And the reason they want control over the content, and they go to a CNN or an MSNBC or a Fox News, right? It is amazing, by the way, and incredibly frustrating to realize that one of the biggest proponents of fake news, right, of stories that are not true, Fox News is considered an authoritative source.
Right.
When you can look at my page, Secular Talk, Kyle Kalinske, your page, a lot of us indie left-wing YouTubers, we spend a significant amount of our time debunking bullshit conspiracies that are spread on Fox News.
Yeah. And now we have to work harder.
And they're authoritative. And so it's not about it's not about truth. It's not about facts. It's not about being somebody who is focused on not misleading their audience, because we are not misleading our audience. We are trying our damnedest to get the real news out there and to give our perspective on it. And yet that Fox News is authoritative over us, and it's the most frustrating goddamn fucking thing to ever experience. It doesn't matter at all the quality of the content that we put out or what it's about. It's always just about, are you a big giant multimedia or giant media corporation? If you are, then yes, you're authoritative because you got the cash.
Yep.
And we don't.
Yeah, it's a slap in the face. And it's like, we try in indie media to adopt the norms of, traditional journalists. Like, we have our desks, we have our setups, we have our fancy microphones. We try to be presentable. And yes, we are, we're presenting pretty radical, in the mainstream sense, ideas. Like, we're talking about overthrowing capitalism. I get it. That's extreme. That may scare people. But, I mean, like you said, for Fox News, of all, to be an authoritative, voice in news, it's so frustrating. It is a slap in the face. And I keep using the word frustrating because that is really how we feel. Like, I just put out, I think it goes live tomorrow at 9, a video of debunking one of Tucker Carlson's segments where he just does, like, awful propaganda. He tries to pit the working class against the homeless, and he bases it off of this story of homeless people in San Francisco being put in hotel rooms to social distance, and they receive, cannabis and alcohol. And basically 12 people got alcohol who were homeless.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Like,
right?
You threatened me with a good time.
Right. But he made this big, gigantic, sensationalist story about it, and it's harmful misinformation. And I spent hours putting together, the segment, editing it and whatnot, and debunking it. But yet I'm not the authoritative force when he is, when I'm citing actual, factual evidence here. It sucks. Yeah. Exactly. It sucks.
Yep. I mean, there's really not a whole lot you can really add to that. I mean, it does absolutely suck, and something has to change. And There needs to be, there should be a competitor. You talked about that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But there isn't. And even if there was a competitor, how do you know it wouldn't be corrupted by the money the same way?
Yeah.
That's why, money needs to be divorced from journalism. It needs to be divorced from news. There shouldn't be infotainment. Yes, you and I, we try to be entertaining while getting our point across because, we are doing commentary and facts as well.
Yeah.
But money should not control what we see and hear. And unfortunately, that's what we have with five corporations now that control 70% of all the media?
I believe so, yeah.
In this country? It used to be six. It's been shrinking before our eyes. And that is something that is clearly wrong. It is fucked up. And it kind of explains why the country is in the state that it is.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no alternative. And, I was talking to someone about this recently, that part of the reason why mainstream media is so alluring, especially to older individuals, is because, they can just turn on the TV and they can have it play, while they're doing something else. It's just in the background. And indie media doesn't necessarily have that there. So, I mean, there's always this idea in the back of, I think, everyone's minds, what if we, started our own thing? But there's a problem. We lack capital. To do something like that is huge. I mean, you see efforts, you see TYT, you see Means TV, you see efforts pop up, but I mean, it takes lawyers. It takes, you've got to have payroll. It's a lot of things that we just don't have the capacity to accomplish. All of us who have our channels, Jeff, myself, we're one person. And I don't know anything about that stuff. So it's tough. It's it almost is seemingly impossible. It's not, but it just would take a lot. And the problem is that, we don't have the personnel. We're doing these things by ourselves, so I can't take time away from the Humanist Report to try to figure out some alternative. And like Jeff said, like you said, it's going to end up one day being possibly corrupted because that's what capitalism does to everything. It turns everything to shit.
It corrupts everything it touches.
Yeah, totally.
And that is the story of capitalism. That is how we are in the mess that we're in.
Yep.
And so, speaking of that, I mean, how have you been handling quarantine?
I always say that it's not as bad for me because my lifestyle usually could probably be described as quarantine. Because I don't like to leave home, but honestly, psychologically, it is starting to take a little bit of a toll on me. I will be honest. Just not being able to easily go to the store, and if I want ice cream, I don't know, just not having that ability. It is a little bit. It feels awful, but it could be worse. I am privileged enough to be able to work, from home. I do the Humanist Report. It's I don't have to worry as much as other people, so I'm not complaining, and I'm definitely acknowledging that it could be way, way worse for me. But how are you doing? Because I know that everyone handles these things differently, and I don't know if you were more of an adventurous type of person, because the people who I know in my life who are always on the go, they're not taking it well.
Oh no, they're not. But for me, I can describe myself as pretty much like you. Lifestyle is kind of quarantine. I'll go out every once in a while and get a coffee or something, or totally. In the summer I do like to go and golf. I'm one of those people, just because it is quiet, fresh outdoors, and I can hit a ball really, really, really hard, and sometimes it feels good.
Yeah.
And normally in the wrong direction too, in the place that I don't want to hit it at. So, so it's one of those things. I mean, I play a lot of video games too, and so I've always been a bit of a shut-in kind of guy.
Same.
I like my MMOs. I'd stream Twitch once in a while, where I'll just play a game and talk to people who decide to drop by, and that's kind of cool. That's always fun. And so there's not really been a huge change, although your point about not being able to go to the store and get ice cream, I've been feeling that for quite some time. And a lot of people have to deal with not being able to go to the store, by doing grocery, having the people or deliver the groceries to you, right?
Right.
And so, you do that, but that's expensive. And then you got to make sure to tip the people very, very well.
Absolutely.
Because they're out there, they're braving the danger for us, and they don't, they got to work. They're essential. And so, and we, of course, by the way, we have not been supporting these essential workers do what we should.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that $1,200 check? That's not nearly enough.
Oh, no, not at all.
And I say that all the time. We're not getting any more. Pelosi has been doing her best to not help us, but to help her dark money donors, her lobbyist friends. And of course, Mitch McConnell's like, anything that comes to my desk that helps anybody other than giant corporations, dead on arrival.
Yeah.
My donors already got a bailout, so good luck with that. Yep.
Everything that he wanted was in that first bill, so he's not playing ball in the future. And, Pelosi, she's playing progressives in Congress, but I feel a little bit encouraged today, kind of seeing them stand up saying they're going to vote against the HEROES Act. But, all of this amounts to nothing if we don't actually help people. And just knowing that we're not going to get even that second, $1,200 payment, which, again, would still not be enough. But knowing that that's probably not going to come, there's something, really heartbreaking about that. Because as we see more and more of these types of, reopen, anti-quarantine protests pop up, you can only be so mad at people for being irresponsible for so long because they do need to support themselves. So it's I can't. I mean, let's be real. Some of them are a little out there, right? I mean, the ones carrying guns, they're crazy people. But there are a large portion who have a legitimate grievance, and I can't blame them. They need money.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I've been trying to make the distinction whenever I talk about them. Yes, there are two different types of anti-lockdown protesters. There's the people that never believed COVID-19 was an actual thing.
Right.
That's a government conspiracy along with your cell phone, 5G towers, and
I heard about that.
It's not real, and it's freedom,
it's a hoax.
And then there's the people. Before I get to that, but the people that I'm going to talk about. There's also Meal Team 6 out there. Carrying their bazookas and rocket launchers to a subway. What are they going to do? What are they going to shoot their shoot subs at their friends? Is that what they're doing? Come on, guys, get out of here! Literally, get out of here!
As a subway worker of 5 years, I can tell you that the workers probably did not appreciate the bazookas coming in because everyone who walks into a subway, I'd say 95%, is an entitled Karen. Doesn't matter if you're male or female, they're all Karens. So to have a bazooka, that just adds to the angst that you're already feeling as a subway worker. So I really feel for them. I really do.
I'm super nice when I go to Subway, by the way.
Totally.
I'm always engaging in polite conversation and all that stuff. So I'm super nice. I try to be because I actually try to respect workers.
Right. And
that is something that is apparently incredibly rare in this country, based on the fact of how we treat the essential workers today.
Oh, absolutely. I'm honestly, I was miserable. Sometimes I'll talk about my retail and fast food years, but I think that without it, I don't know that I would be the person that I am today or as radical as I am. Because, probably because just in general, my nature, I think I try to be empathetic, but just seeing firsthand how little regard people have for you, how they have no respect for you, how they're willing to just go off on you and ruin your day if you put, a little bit less olives on their sub than they wanted.
Right,
I mean, it's just they have no respect for you. So kind of really, I don't know, getting that perspective, I think that it helped me. Not that I'm saying I wouldn't have had that already, but just really seeing it firsthand and being, feeling I wanted to go crazy and just go off on a customer. I feel bad for them, especially now at this time when people are going to be even more insufferable and entitled.
Absolutely. And we've seen that. But, back to the original point, to kind of circle back.
Right.
There's those, type of people, the Karens, as you pointed out. Mm-hmm. And then there are people that are suffering. There are people that can't get their unemployment benefits, that have been trying to wind their way through an antiquated system like Florida's that was set up to fail. Literally set up to fail by Rick Scott when he was governor. And he admitted that. And so you've got these people that don't have the money to be able to, feed their families, pay the rent, pay the mortgage, because we haven't frozen any of those things. Mm-hmm. No, we've decided to let people go on their own and say, we're going to give you this $1,200 and let you navigate these broken ass systems in the different states, and good luck. Hope you come out on the other side and are ready to consume. And that's the other part of it. When people come out the other side, when this is over, you think that we're going to be ready to pick up the economy? An economy that is based on consumer spending when literally no one has the resources to be able to continue the consumer-based economy?
Yeah, I don't know what I honestly like. That's what I think is adding to the despair that I see. And, maybe I just speak for myself, but we don't know how long. Like, there's no end date for COVID-19. And I think that there's not going to be an official, end date, December 14th. Like, it's going to be a really gray area, hazy timeline to where we transition back to normal. But I don't know what normal looks like when, like you said,
there is no normal.
How do we spend, how does the economy get going? If people don't have purchasing power, everyone is fucked.
Mm-hmm. It'll disappear one day.
Gonna be
we won't even need a vaccine. It'll just be like, poof, it'll be gone. Fucking moron.
It's so hard to listen to that. I tried to, tune in for the press conferences briefly, at least just for comic relief. I can't. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I can't.
Yeah, well, this is what it's going to turn into. You remember Alex Jones?
Yep. I will eat your ass.
Yeah, that's what it's going. That's what it's going to end up being. We're gonna all be eating our neighbors.
Oh God.
So, that's what. Look, Republicans literally have set it up this way, and corporate Democrats, by the way, by not doing a goddamn thing to help. They have set it up to where we get barely enough so that we are forced to go back to work and expose ourselves to COVID. That is right after they facilitated the largest transfer of wealth to the top 1% that I think we've ever seen in American history. Mm-hmm. Now, we thought the Trump tax cuts were the biggest transfer of wealth, or the Bush tax cuts. No. This is over, what, $5 trillion?
It's hard to even imagine a number that large. You can't. It's such a large number. I don't think the human brain can conceptualize just how big of a number that is.
Yeah. And by the way, at the same time, you've got people like Jeff Bezos that are about to become a trillionaire.
Yeah,
and all of this is incredibly maddening. And then you look at all of the evidence that is set up in front of you, and you realize that this country is so fucked that we put and prioritize the wealthiest Americans and corporations above regular human beings, that we are sending back or getting prepared to send back in a lot of places to get infected and possibly die.
Yeah.
How fucked up is that? You couldn't have written a better dystopian novel. Somebody who's reading that the whatever draft or whatever be like, no, this shit's too unbelievable. This is crazy. I mean, this president, is this supposed to be comic relief?
Yeah, it's unreal. And I don't know if you saw, and I didn't read the article, admittedly, I just saw the headline, but it was either the director or one of the producers of Black Mirror said that there's no point in making another season right now because, real life is just too weird, and I'm paraphrasing, but that's so right. We are living in dystopian times, and, I often joke about, Idiocracy. Oh, that wasn't supposed to be, nonfiction. No, I think that it's worse. When they were watering Gatorade with crops, the prospect of a president saying that we should maybe look into injecting disinfectants.
Injecting bleach?
That's worse than watering Gatorade with crops. So we're beyond Idiocracy in that movie. It's just, I don't know. I don't think that our grandchildren and great-grandchildren will believe the things, assuming we'll be able to survive that long, will believe what is happening right now. It's a joke. It is beyond parody.
And then there were the murder hornets.
Those fucking murder hornets.
And then the month after, you're not going to believe this, but this totally happened. The sun turned off. I mean, look, I'm kind of out there on that one, but there is a quiet period of the sun, right? I read that earlier today.
Did you?
And I was like, there's no fucking way, right? No, the sun seems to be entering a more quiet period, which could lead to climate disruption and crop failures. So I'm looking at that, and I'm like, what the fuck kind of shit? Hold on. May's not over, and you've already got June's apocalypse on my bingo card. That's too soon. We're not done with the murder hornets yet.
Yep. And who knows? I heard back in, what was it, March, that there were some rumblings in Yellowstone. Who knows if
oh, Jesus fuck.
Like, don't underestimate the way that the universe can fuck us. There's a lot more ways that it can happen. So be happy with what we're dealing with now, because it could get a lot worse, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me give you more detail into that sun thing.
Yeah, I'm really curious now. I have not heard this, but I'm right, officially worried.
So now the sun has entered a lockdown period, which could cause freezing weather and famine. So the sun is currently in a period of solar minimum, meaning activity on the surface has fallen dramatically, and experts believe that we are about to enter the deepest period of sunshine recession ever recorded, as sunspots have virtually disappeared. This is according to astronomer Dr. Tony Phillips. Solar minimum is underway, and it's a deep one. It's very deep. They want you to know that it's incredibly deep. Okay. Sunspot counts suggested as one of the deepest of the past century. The sun's magnetic field has become weak, allowing extra cosmic rays into the solar system. Excess cosmic rays pose a health hazard to astronauts and polar air travelers. It's a good thing nobody's traveling across the poles right now.
Right.
Because of the virus. Affect the electrochemistry of Earth's upper atmosphere and may help trigger lightning. NASA scientists fear it could be a repeat of the Dalton minimum, which happened between 1790 and 1830, leading to periods of brutal cold, crop loss, famine, and powerful volcanic eruptions.
Are you? Oh God.
I'm not kidding with you. Like, this is what they're saying.
Wow.
Like, apocalypse bingo. Do we have a bingo yet? And what do you win? Because I don't feel like a winner. So okay, so we got plague, right? So we got the sun that's obviously fucking up right now. And the solar minimum, right? So crop loss, famine, increased volcanic activity. So maybe a volcano will go off. So that sucks. Maybe Yellowstone. Oh, Jesus Christ. We've murder hornets. Donald Trump is president. And the Democrats are running a senile sexual predator. Is this like, are we in the apocalypse? Is this what's going on? Is this what's happening?
This is what the apocalypse feels like. And let me just say,
if there's no zombies, and it kind of sucks. This is the worst apocalypse ever.
Right. I prepare for zombies mentally, and the fact that this is happening, my expectations have not been met. But I will just say, like, can astronomers just do a double check of asteroids, just like around? We
almost got hit by one actually a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I saw that actually. I saw that.
Buzzed by Earth, yeah.
And also, gamma ray bursts. I don't know what we can do to protect ourselves from that, but I mean, can we like just be a little bit extra observant when it comes to our, solar neighborhood, because anything can happen.
Right.
Like, until we're out of 2020, I'm going to assume that literally anything can happen. Aliens could visit us and just kill us all. Like, that's not out of the question based on how fucking strange this year has been. And I watched the comedy video on YouTube. Like, I wish I could credit her because I can't remember her name. She was so funny. But she was basically telling herself what to expect in 3 months, before the pandemic hit. And the person was like, oh, well, won't 2020 be remembered by the, wildfires in Australia? And then she was like, oh, I forgot about that. Oh, well, just you wait. Because it's like, we started the year with fire tornadoes. Like, does anyone even remember that? Like, that in and of itself,
oh my God, I didn't,
was so insane. And now, looking back at how we all forgot about the fire tornadoes, it goes to show you how much shit happened in this fucking year.
It's insane. And by the way, speaking of aliens, right? The government, like, they released gun camera footage, right? Mm-hmm. It's already been out there. That was dug up by the leader of Blink-182. So if that's not weird enough, right? Yeah, the main singer of Blink-182 is a UFO researcher. He dug up these, helped find these this footage, right? And released it, the Go Fast video, if you can remember that. Because my guilty pleasure is like alien shit. Not that I like believe like, oh, they're here and it's the Illuminati and they're fucking, hiding the aliens and there's in the government. Whatever. I do believe that there is intelligent life out there.
Sure.
Or at least a possibility of intelligent life out there that is thousands, maybe millions of years ahead of us because of how old the universe is, and they're massively, like technologically more advanced than we are. If that's true, but like this video comes out, right, and then the Pentagon says earlier this month or last month, I think, they're like, yeah, it's true. This is actual footage. We've been sitting on this. It actually happened. We don't know what it is. Not saying it's aliens, but we're not saying it's not aliens. It's UFOs, literally. Oh, great. So that happened earlier, and nobody gave a shit. And so that's, again, goes back to how insane everything is. Because, you just released possible proof of aliens, flying around in our airspace, and no one, like, batted an eye. They're like, yeah, whatever. What did Trump say today?
I love that you brought that up because, like, for me, I was really, really into all of the like UFO, and I even like I wasn't a conspiracy theorist, but I watched, like I listened to the kooky people because I thought it was like this is just an interesting concept because I really was into astronomy and I wanted to believe that. I know that there's got to be life out there statistically, and based on general probability, the universe is gigantic.
Right.
And so, I wanted to believe, and all this like old UFO footage, Roswell, I was so fascinated by it, even though I wasn't necessarily sure that it was like of the belief that it was extraterrestrial. It was still really fascinating to me. I was glued to it.
Yeah, it is.
And like now, when I saw the confirmation from the Pentagon, my response was like, eh.
Exactly.
That's how crazy
this is where we're at.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, that's like the fifth craziest thing I've seen today.
Yeah. If I see an alien running around, then I'm going to be like, okay, that's interesting. But like this shit now, like the bar has been raised so high with what gets my attention. They've got to do more than that. Like I need to see Alien. Let me see them aliens.
or you could say it conversely. Everything has just lowered the bar for expectations so low that it's it's underground at this point. Like there's no expectations anymore. Like we have them. It's just like whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. Whatever. Like it's all shit.
Yeah.
It's all fucked up. Everything's fucked up.
Absolutely. It's funny the mental space that people are in and how like as a species, like our collective consciousness, I think has changed a little bit based on like all of the shit that happened, like living through a literal reality television star presidency while we're dealing with a plague and all this shit. It's just how like it's going to take us decades to process this.
Yeah, no, I foresee many therapy bills for many people.
Yes, and they will probably go bankrupt for it because we live in America.
Yes, exactly. No Medicare for you.
Yes.
No Medicare for anybody. Unless you're 60, if Joe Biden wins. At least that's what he says.
Yeah.
So, what are we talking about?
To.
I know. If we survive the murder hornets and everything.
That's true.
We'll see what happens. So let's go to Biden for a second here.
Yeah.
Joe fucking Biden, presumptive nominee. Fuck.
I'm really excited, Jeff. I don't know why you're so doomer on Biden. Can't even say it with that laugh.
You probably couldn't say it with a straight face. You were like,
no,
can't do it.
It's awful.
Impossible.
Man. Yeah. And, okay, do you remember seeing all those bumper stickers and yard signs, any functioning adult 2020? Like, I saw a meme post that was hilarious and just, it was poignant. It was like, Democrats couldn't even do that. The one thing.
Fucking nailed it.
Look, Pat, look.
I mean, come on, dude. That guy, really? So I made I throw together every once in a while something fun, right, to play before my show on when I go live on YouTube. I made one on Biden. You want to listen to it?
Yes, I do.
Go to Joe 303.
Tomorrow, superstars.
Is that the stable genius saying that?
30330. My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. How many unsafe bridges you still have here in the state of Iowa? And
This is a guy who doesn't know what he's doing.
We choose truth over facts.
We'll see who's sleepy.
I'm not going nuts. 30330. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by the you know the thing. You know the thing.
All right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right. It's Chris, but anyway.
I got started out on HBCU. You don't understand.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
I just did Chris. No, I just did Chuck.
30330.
He got it.
The music is just the perfect compliment to that. The only thing that I wish I would have had in there as well is the that Trump isn't having intercourse with the rest of the world.
I made that before that happened.
Okay. That was good though. That is
Yep.
I'd give it an A+.
Every once in a while, I'll just throw something together like that. I got one for Trump too. My God, it's just the fucked up shit. Like this is what we have, but we have to laugh, right? Or else we're gonna break down.
Absolutely. If we don't, then yeah, we'll cry.
Exactly. We'll be like, why?
I will say though, love them or hate them, both Donald Trump and Joe Biden, they are the perfect representatives for a dying empire. Like if you look back in the history books and you see like who was at the top, of power, of the hierarchy in our political system, you'll say, oh, that makes sense. I could see why they started to die as an empire that yeah. Well,
like the Roman Empire, I mean, they had lead in their water. What's our excuse?
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I mean, Flint.
Yeah,
we do have lead in the water.
Yeah,
that's true. It's so messed up. But let's go to again. We're still talking about Biden here, but I want to throw out some recent poll numbers that should have you very concerned. This is SSRS poll of 15 battleground states, and you've got Joe Biden versus Trump. And oh look, you had Trump beating Biden in those 15 states: Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Maine, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, New Hampshire, and Mexico, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Wisconsin. Trump's lead over Biden was 52-45.
That's so brutal.
But Biden is electable.
I know. Everything that they told us, they knew that they were lying because we were right. He's not electable. And I don't know what's going to happen. I think this is going to be a very difficult election to predict. But it's really like, it's the flip of a coin. I think that what's going to happen is that last 2 to 3 weeks before the actual election itself is going to be crucial. And I think that ultimately, Donald Trump is going to be very effective with the campaign that he runs against Joe Biden, because if he was going to actually be beatable, then I don't know. I feel like his approval rating now wouldn't be so high as he's bungled this pandemic so colossally. So the fact that he's still technically not unscathed, the fact that there's polls, and I wish I could remember, I don't know if this was Harris X, it was tweeted out by Political Polls. They showed that overall respondents said that they trusted Trump more on the economy than Biden. I don't know what to say. We knew that this was coming, and it's going to happen. Democrats made their bed, and they're going to lie in it now. And, the worst part is that they don't necessarily have to go with Biden, because you and I remember, when Bernie was the front runner, they were talking about replacing him at the convention with superdelegates. So now that Biden is the one, and, I'm not saying that I'm advocating for this undemocratic maneuver or a switcheroo at the convention, but Obama can pull some strings. He could say, listen, Joe, you're fucking us all over. You've got to step down. And that could happen. But it won't.
Right, but wasn't that the way, like the reason for that system to be implemented in the first place? I mean,
Right.
the reason that they state, like, oh, well, if the nominee, I mean, since we had such a bad time with
McGovern, and 50 years ago?
Yeah, and so, man, boy, we really let that one slip with McGovern. Oh boy, we fucked that one up. We shit the bed there. So let's create this elaborate system in order to prevent that from happening again. And yet, that system, we saw that in action in 2016. Getting the less electable candidate for the general election instead of the more electable candidate, which is Bernie Sanders. And we saw that happen again. Like, the party machinery is set up now. I mean, like, originally, sure, it would have been something to avoid a McGovern. Now it's to avoid a progressive from winning and becoming the party nominee, because then that would give progressives too much power. And they can't abide by that. They can say it's all about electability all they want, but when you do these polls, when you compare Bernie Sanders and how popular he is in the states in these polls versus Trump, you can't come away with that same like narrative or conclusion. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah,
because Bernie beats Trump and has consistently beat Trump. He has the strengths that Trump lacks. And he has the real populism versus the faux populism, and he can win.
Yeah.
But the problem is that it's harder for a progressive to win a primary than it is for them to win a general election. And that's where we fail every single time, is that it's that primary. It's the primary. It's when the Democrats have the most control. And so that's why they're so, effective in primaries, but when it comes to general elections, they're completely ineffectual. And the other reason, of course, I think, and you could disagree with me on this, but they get paid no matter what.
Yeah.
They get money. They win no matter what. They get to be the opposition party if Trump wins again and gather donations by calling him the most dangerous president in history, despite mainly, giving him more and more power, like the power to spy on people and to take their to look at their browser history without a warrant, all that shit that they're able to do. So, they can claim that he's the most dangerous president in history, but still they profit from him.
Oh, yeah.
And they profit from, Republicans winning all the time. And either way, if they win, if Joe Biden wins, profit. Trump wins, profit. They win, we lose.
Absolutely. No, that's such a great point. It is win-win for them. And if you're just thinking through this as like a self-interested member of Congress in the Democratic Party, and all you really care about is, putting in the bare minimum effort and getting reelected, it's really easy to like shoot out 5 emails per day to your constituents about what Trump did and how horrible he is. So it's really easy to fundraise. And if you have that gone, that boogeyman gone, then what do you use? I mean, technically, they should be using Mitch McConnell. They should be using just far-right extremism and nationalism and, proto-fascism in general. But that's easy. Like, everyone knows Donald Trump. Nobody knows who, all of these other right-wing figures are. I mean, I'm sure more Americans know who Mitch McConnell is. But when, one poll showed that a lot of people believed Judge Judy was on the Supreme Court, people don't necessarily have all of the information. So it's easy to fundraise off of Donald Trump. So at a personal or an individual level anyways, I don't think it really matters for Democrats who wins or loses. It's just about themselves. And, their only interest in Biden winning, as I see it, is how that's going to benefit their career and electoral prospects. If they think Biden will help them get reelected, if they think he's going to offer them a spot in his administration, then they'll favor it. If not, then I don't think they really care.
Right, and I've read some articles that, Biden's good at creating coalitions and doing all that behind the scenes, elbow greasing and hobnobbing and all that. And they use that in the context of him being an effective legislator, which is fucking LOL.
Yeah, right.
Okay, what kind of legislation are you going to get? Oh, garbage? Not interested. But, they say that. And that's the reason why so many people, as you said, try to get on his good side, want him to win, because he is more likely to reward those people. And just as we've saw with any, establishment candidate. I mean, I remember, reading about in, 2016, the people who were, backing Hillary Clinton so vociferously, they were getting the drapes ready. They
yeah.
were measuring the drapes, and they're so mad that she lost because they didn't get their shot to get into the White House, to get in those positions of power.
Mm-hmm.
And then they took it out, of course, on the quote-unquote Bernie bros.
Oh, yeah. Do you think that Neera Tanden isn't upset that she didn't get that job? Because, I mean, like, once you make it into the White House, you are a political commodity for the rest of your life. Like, you're set. You've got speaking gigs, book deals. You can write a memoir. Like, it's easy, and it doesn't matter where you're at in, the White House. So long as you were around power, you're going to have a story to tell. And in a capitalist system, if you have a story to tell, that means you're going to have some money to make. People are going to want you to come on their shows on MSNBC. So, it's like we're watching jockeying for power and positions of influence in government, and nobody really seems to actually care about policies. Nobody cares about ideology. This is all just political theater. And I think that, to me, that's one of the biggest revelations over the course of these last 2 election cycles is that, I was, I think, naive to an extent to believe that Democrats at least did care, that Republicans did care about ideology. And Republicans, they care insofar as that's going to help them get elected. But Democrats know that ideology isn't necessarily going to help them get elected because policy prescriptions aren't as big as, a bludgeon to beat your constituents over the head with to get, them to support you than Republicans bad are. If you just scream about how bad Republicans are and Trump is and don't do anything, that's really, really effective. That's how they cultivate loyalty. And, as Republicans shift further to the right, it's only going to get worse. Democrats will continue following them, off that cliff.
Yeah, exactly. And I totally want to back up your point about, like, feeling the, like you were, like, myself personally was more naive back in the day, because I do remember getting into this around, 2012. So I've been around for a while. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh, yeah, if just Democrats just get a majority, then they're going to do stuff that actually helps the people. It's those Republicans that are stopping them. And for years, I thought that, right? And then seeing these last 2 primary cycles, seeing how, like, quote-unquote, the sausage is made, right? And it involves a lot of slaughtering. In this case, slaughtering progressives. Yeah. You can't, I mean, when you know how it works, you realize that that's not the case at all. That it doesn't matter if the Democrats get a majority. They're still not going to be in favor of things that upset their donors. They're not going to be in favor of things like, Medicare for all or a $15, it should be actually like a $25 living wage. Right. And things like a Green New Deal, because that stuff upsets the donors. And that's why you've seen, of course, Democrats be more really kind of turn this into, along with help from Republicans, a war of social issues, right? But we've won the social issues for the most part. Yeah. And maybe I'm wrong, right? I mean, there's a lot of work to do, of course, for our trans brothers and sisters, especially in being accepted in society. And not being murdered, because there's a lot of African American trans women that are killed every day. Yeah, and that's something that needs to be talked about, focused on, and you have to do something about it. But largely, when it comes to the social issues, we have made a lot of ground. But that is not. I mean, and the Democrats have done that, but that's not enough. As MLK, and I love to use this quote. I'm going to paraphrase it. But what good is it to be able to sit at the lunch counter if you can't afford a hamburger? Right. And that's where we're at. You have to have economic issues as well. You can't just focus on the social issues. And it is easy for the Democrats to go back and say, well, look, Republicans want to take gay marriage away. And they want to take your right to get, bodily autonomy for women, to get an abortion away. And so Republicans bad, Trump bad, vote for us. Yeah, that's all good. We want to protect those things. But what about the economic issues, too? Because as far as I know, LGBT folks also need to make money.
Totally. Yeah, no, what I think is happening is the facade is kind of vanishing. Like, we were kind
of... The masks are off.
Yeah, absolutely. We were misled into believing that every election is going to come down to, women's reproductive rights and LGBTQ plus rights. But as time goes on, people lose more and more material wealth that they didn't even have. The economic situation gets more desperate. And, you can advocate for LGBTQ people as loudly as you want to, and that's great. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, if you're not talking about Medicare for all, for example, and looking at the health disparities within the LGBTQ community, everything else, as far as I'm concerned, seems like lip service to me. Like when I see like all of these, Democrats, they talk about, pride and whatnot. Like I just find it irritating because like everything, like you can't really disaggregate economics with social issues. Like these are all interrelated things. Like if you're going to talk about social justice and racial justice, you have to talk about, economic rights justice as well. Yeah, these things all intersect. They're all intertwined. And so you can't disassociate one from the other. But the problem is that they have to as Democrats because, economically they are in lockstep with Republicans, while socially and culturally they're not. So they have to find some way to kind of like give us anything to make it seem as if they're left-leaning, right? And that social issues, that cultural issues, pandering, quite frankly, because I don't even believe that they believe what they said they did anymore. That's the only thing that they have. Otherwise, if you take that away, then what are they? They're just Republicans. I mean, they govern as Republicans. Look at Obama and Bill Clinton. What do they focus on? Austerity. They focus on balancing the budget, reducing the deficit. I don't give a shit about the deficit. Like, spend money and help people who are struggling. You know what I mean? So it's just they're phonies. And I think that it's hard to really, look forward at what the left should do if we don't be realistic about the Democratic Party. Like, Republicans are bad, and that's just obvious. But we have to, they're the final boss. We have to conquer Democrats so we can take on the final boss. Because I think if we're able to conquer the Democratic Party, the left largely would win. Because electorally speaking, Republicans are a minority party. They're a minority party. Their ideas are unpopular. They're good at propaganda. But I think the left is, they're changing, and I think that they can meet the demands of what's needed to be electable. We just have to fight the Democratic Party establishment, and that's really tough to do.
It absolutely is. And you said something about them basically being, essentially without values, right?
Right.
And nothing's a better example of the Democratic Party being essentially bankrupt on that front than what we've seen with Me Too.
Yeah, totally.
And so, here we have a Democratic Party that has turned against a woman that has come forward to accuse Joe Biden of sexual assault and sexual harassment. And, they're using the same kind of arguments that we've seen from defenders of Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah, the exact same arguments.
It's honestly sickening to go and look at this. And you and I, we're on social media all the time, you know. And so we see this. We see like these tweets that are not, that are not satire, because there are some pretty good satire accounts there.
Yeah.
These are not.
No.
Right, that are like, oh, Joe Biden could rape me and I'd still vote for him over Trump.
Yeah, I saw
like,
that.
What? No, what is going on here? And so, I mean, this is a situation where Democrats have, I guess, given up professed values for no reason. So they never really cared about things like Me Too. Now, did you see Lawrence O'Donnell yesterday with Biden? By the way,
I did, where he said that if you believe Tara, you shouldn't vote for him.
He said this. Yeah, here it is.
Well, I think they should vote their heart. And if they believe Tara Reid, they probably shouldn't vote for me. I wouldn't vote for me if I believed Tara Reid.
That's insane.
I wouldn't vote for me. Why would you do that during an election? Like, just don't vote for me then. Well, that's like Hillary Clinton saying we don't need progressives.
Yeah.
Okay, well, bye.
Right. Then step down. If you think that this is going to be an issue where there's a sizable portion of people who wouldn't believe you, if you actually care about the Democratic Party or the values you say you do, you'd step down. But, I mean, it shows you they don't. And look, all of these things that I say about them not believing anything, it's not like I didn't already know this, but just to see them so brazenly, dismiss Me Too, it honestly is depressing. Because, like, when they were fighting against Brett Kavanaugh's nomination on grounds of principle, it's not like any of us were under the illusion that we'd get a progressive nominated in his place. Like, it was going to be some right-wing ghoul. But it's the principle of let's not have an alleged rapist, on the Supreme Court because standards.
Right.
But with Joe Biden, to see how they literally use the exact same argument, it's frustrating. And, what hurts is that this isn't just Democratic leadership. Like, what they say, their supporters parrot. Like, someone who has been a longtime friend of mine, I told him, like, he posted an article on Facebook about Bernie bros and whatnot, and I shared, the article of Tara Reid. He didn't know about this. And then immediately, what's the first thing that he says? Why did she only choose to come forward now? Like the same thing. So I don't know if he, parroted what Democrats say, but what's really, really crystal clear, if anyone didn't already see it, is this is a team sport, and that's not my team. I don't want to be on that team if that's all they care about, just winning. I actually do care about principles. I do care about Me Too. I think it's a movement that's crucial, and you can argue that, as Jamie Peck did on Majority Report in a really great rant, I would encourage everyone to check out. It's been largely co-opted by some nefarious forces, but overall, this is something that can potentially lead to radical change, albeit culturally. But that's still really important because this cultural element of Me Too, like this, affects women materially. So and Tara Reid kind of shared her story about how she really couldn't come forward and talk about this because she was worried about losing her job. So it's genuinely heartbreaking to see how low they've stooped. And it's not like I didn't think that this wasn't a possibility. Like, I knew that Democrats would do this and were capable of this. It's just to kind of see it so open, and how all of them, even people who I previously believed in, like Elizabeth Warren, and honestly to an extent Bernie, who hasn't said much. It's really sad.
I mean, like, you said they only care about winning, right? They actually don't.
That's true.
It doesn't feel like...
Yeah.
They did care about winning, excuse me, then they wouldn't run someone with so much baggage, so many problems, like Joe Biden does. They also wouldn't run somebody who constantly tells people to vote for someone else. I mean, listen to this.
We got to stop building and replacing pipelines. You got to go vote for someone else.
All right, thanks so much, sir. We're going to have you here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I'm going to vote you in the general if you treat me
I
right.
know. Well, I'm not.
The first surprise is that Biden told Fallon to vote for someone else.
I did not expect to be told to leave, to go vote for somebody else, and then to be lectured about.
And then he presses on Fallon's chest, pokes him with a finger, and finally grabs his jacket with two hands.
It was not appropriate interaction for anybody. I mean, if I'd done that to him, the security would have been all over me.
Yeah, there's that, and putting their hands on someone else, in this case a man, and then you have this.
3 million people that were deported and separated from their families. We have this classification of families.
Well, you should vote for Trump.
Families.
You should vote for Trump.
I'm not going to do that. But I want
he literally.
families.
Insane.
I mean, he literally has a history of telling people to vote for someone else, vote for Trump, putting his hands on people, right? And yet, during that same interview that I referenced earlier, that I played the first clip from, he was saying, well, that's not in my character to go and assault somebody. Is it? Is it to touch people in a public place and assault them?
Yeah.
Like, that is not in your character? No, they don't care about winning. The Democrats don't care about winning. They care about consolidating and keeping their power.
Yeah.
And if Bernie Sanders had won, and look, I've got criticisms of Bernie Sanders not being aggressive enough, and I'm sure you and I both agree on that.
Totally.
And like, he's not like Bernie Sanders. I love Bernie Sanders. He's a great person. He's super nice. He's too nice for politics, I think.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta be kind of nasty for politics, and he's just not. And he's been fighting for the right things for many years, but at the same time, he is a reformer. He is not a revolutionary.
Right. And
so I think at this point in time, yes, we tried to get a reformer in, but the system is too corrupt. It is rigged, that we need a revolutionary, and that's going to get ugly. But we need someone to be ugly.
Yeah. There's no other option.
And there are no politicians out there on the left that are willing to be ugly that are in office. Again, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I love her. She's wonderful. Not ugly. She's not getting ugly.
Yeah.
Pramila Jayapal, right? Won't get ugly. They won't. They won't. And we need people who are willing to get in the mud and to fight. Like, I'm not saying Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez isn't fighting in her own way. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not dismissing her at all. right? And so don't get me wrong, they are fighting in their own way, but we need someone who's super, super aggressive in the ways that they refuse to be, which means criticizing the, like I remember back in 2012, this is where Bernie Sanders was super impressive, right? Where he's like, I'll primary Obama. I don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where's that? We need that Bernie.
Yeah.
We need them to say, no, fuck Joe Biden. He's got some serious problems. I'm the only one that can take on Donald Trump according to the polls and win. You can't, the other mistake that he made was saying, oh, no, I think Joe Biden can beat Donald Trump.
Yeah, worst
You just
thing
undermined
ever.
your entire fucking campaign. Like, what? Then why should we vote for you, Bernie?
Yeah.
Then why should we support you if Joe Biden can win and all you care about is beating Trump? Which, unfortunately, many Democrats have put as their number one priority, even if they do support Bernie's policies, and a majority of them do.
Mm-hmm.
They put beating Trump as their number one priority. And if you say that your opponent can beat Trump, you undermine your own fucking argument.
Yeah, it's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen on a political campaign, and that hurts me to say because, I mean, we all love Bernie. How could you not? But he, like you said, he's too nice for politics. And, you want, ideally, someone who is nice and empathetic, but at the same time, you've got to have that Machiavellian, ruthless side, because what you're fighting for is... it's worthy of the fight. You've got to...
Right. This
can't just be a really nice takeover of the Democratic Party. It has to be a hostile takeover where you so thoroughly embarrass everyone in leadership that brand itself becomes toxic to where they have no choice but to rebrand.
Right. There's never been such a thing as a polite takeover.
Totally.
Right. That doesn't happen. No. We got to be like the Somali pirates on the ship and be all like, hey, we're the captain. I'm the captain now.
Yeah.
Right. Look at me. I'm the captain.
That meme popped up in my head as you said that.
I know.
It's a good meme.
And it is really good. And it's representative of what we should be doing. Like, no, you don't understand. We're in charge now.
Right.
Like, you had your shot. You fucked it up. You lost to the clown of clowns. Why the hell should we ever listen to you again? Why are you even here? Get the fuck out of my office.
Mm-hmm.
You're done. Fired. Go home. Go work on. Go get a job at CNN. You fit in perfect there. No, we need people that are fighters. We need people that are progressive. We need people that actually want to, help the people, because that's who we work for. And on the show a couple of days ago, I said it's about time that we start to assert that they work for us.
Right.
Like, they work for us. We don't work for them. And I also said on Twitter, I don't know if you noticed this too. I said it's about time that we start being mean to politicians until they realize who they work for.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like the snake emojis. Like I see you sending snake emojis to Elizabeth Warren. That's what I'm talking about.
And that's not even I mean, it's snake emojis, so the fact that was such a big deal in 2020 is still astonishing to me, but you're absolutely right. We have we have to be that asshole boss who is so relentless where we're never satisfied with politicians to where we make their lives miserable and they have no choice but to, cater to our demands and our needs, because if they don't, then they're going to get an earful, right? But it's just not that way right now. It is that way, but with their donors, not with us.
And of course, like Elizabeth Warren did, she complained, oh my God, I can't believe people are being so mean to me. Well, that's because you're supposed to fucking work for me, and you're not doing your goddamn job.
Yeah, you're failing.
So do your job, and we'll give you credit for it. We'll give you praise. Good job. You can keep your job. But if you stop doing your job, then look, we got you into office. We sure the fuck can take you out.
Right. It's not like you get a pass for the rest of your life because you did a couple of nice things. You got the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Great.
That's wonderful.
But what have you done lately besides introduce a bill? What tangible have you delivered for Americans?
Mm-hmm. And you know what? And we can understand that it is very difficult to get anything past Mitch McConnell. We understand that. Mm-hmm. And it's not as if we're fucking unreasonable people, right? We're not barbarians at the gates, right? But we kind of are.
We need to be.
we also need to be, but we're also cultured.
Yeah.
Right? We get it. We get that it's hard. We know we're putting in the hard work. This is something that Biden voters aren't putting in.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah.
Like, do you see them knocking on doors? You see them making, phone calls? I haven't gotten any texts from Joe Biden.
I haven't gotten a single
or
text.
Phone calls.
I haven't seen a single tweet. I mean, not necessarily my circles, to be fair, on Twitter, but I haven't seen anyone like, hey, I just passed 1,000 calls. Like, how many people were bragging about that when they were making calls for Bernie? Because when you phone bank, that is so fulfilling. You want to boast. You want to talk about, I just passed 100 calls over the weekend. Like, I haven't seen any of that. I did, however, which should scare Democrats, see Donald Trump boast about, what was it, like 100,000 or 1 million calls maybe that they made in the past month or so for Trump? That's insane.
Yeah.
How is a Republican out organizing Democrats?
But that's the thing. Joe Biden never had an organization to begin with.
Right.
Somehow, and it was somehow, and of course, we started this conversation with artificially boosting voices that shouldn't be boosted. Right. Now, we started that when it came to, establishment media YouTube channels. But they did the same thing with Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so true. That artificially boosted him on Super Tuesday. There was no fucking reason that I forget his name. How am I forgetting this guy's name?
Is it Buttigieg?
Yes, Buttigieg. There's no fucking reason. That's how forgettable this guy is, by the way. I almost said Beto O'Rourke, and I was like, oh, that ain't right.
Oh, I forgot about him existing.
Yeah, I know. So did I for a while. And it's you take one, white dude and milquetoast, centrist white guy, and you can just confuse them with the other one.
They're all the same to me. They blend in.
They basically
blend
are.
Together.
They could meld into one thing, Beto Judge, and it would be like, okay, you're basically the same as you were before.
Yeah.
Maybe you can do a kickflip, but that's it. Like, okay, woo, who fuck cares? So, but, there's no reason that Buttigieg, who was ahead of Biden, would give up his campaign and throw everything behind Joe Biden, who had no ground game, no campaign infrastructure. I'm not kidding. No campaign infrastructure. They don't even have a fucking dialer.
That's insane.
You want to talk about manufactured candidate?
Mm-hmm.
That's Joe Biden in a nutshell. Because I remember doing reports and seeing reports. This is from Politico, so it's not like some from quote unquote lefty rag, right? Yeah. Like Jacobin, or I love Jacobin.
Me too. Me too.
Or is it Jacobin? I can't.
I always say Jacobin, but I think either is probably fine because I've heard it pronounced both ways.
I like Jacobin. It sounds a little bit more like French.
Yeah.
So and French is like revolutionary. They take their revolution very seriously.
Yeah, they do
in France, and their workers' rights. We could learn a lot from them.
Yeah, we could.
And so there's no reason that we should have backed, or that Buttigieg should have backed Biden, because he had no money. He was running out of money. He had no campaign infrastructure. He put everything in South Carolina, which I guess paid off because he was schmoozing with James Clyburn, and that's of course the other mistake that Bernie Sanders made is that he's a reformist who was good at making deals with people and creating coalitions, right? Why the fuck didn't he create a coalition then?
I know.
Inside the Democratic Party. Like, he could have done that, and he wouldn't have had to change any of his policies, even if he had fucking wined and dined James Clyburn.
Right.
At least James Clyburn probably wouldn't have endorsed him, but probably wouldn't have spoke against him either. Because that's the only language that these politicians understand is, what have you done for me?
Yeah.
How have you helped me out? And Bernie Sanders could be like, hey man, look, it was pretty good to you. When we hung out, we had some beers or whatever. Like, I was good to you. Like, we hung out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're buddies. Like, I have deep respect for you. But he didn't do that, and he should have. And we wouldn't have looked like negatively towards him for doing what you have to do, because that's part of the play in the game.
Yeah.
And so as a revolutionary, an actual barbarian at the gate, no, you smash the gate open.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But you don't, if you're a reformist like Bernie Sanders, you have to play that game because you are not the revolutionary. Choose one. You can't be both a reformist and a revolutionary at the same time because it doesn't work. You have to be one or the other. You have to either smash the fucking gates open or charm your way in.
Right. Yeah. I totally agree
with
that.
He did neither.
I totally agree. And as we learn more about like how from Jamal, is it Green on Twitter? He was a surrogate for Bernie, and he talked about how, they really wanted to push Bernie to invest more in black media, which was just crucial because if you look back at 2016, I don't think Bernie did enough. I think that part of it was a lack of name recognition, but I think that he just wasn't as organized, and he didn't have the roots in that community he needed to build, which takes a while. And it takes forever to build trust. But you've got to try. And the fact that he didn't invest in black media, people who are trusted, who he could have talked with, that's such a bad miscalculation.
Right. Honestly, understand that, like, and this is something that I, maybe you could say I like armchair quarterback and just realize this, but like what propelled him pretty far is the Hillary hate, of course.
Yeah. Right.
And of course there's sexism, and we like, was that a gigantic factor? I don't necessarily know how big of a factor it was. But there were factors that led to Bernie Sanders doing incredibly well in the primary. Probably the fact that also there was only one other person in that primary.
Right.
Who was that other guy? Lincoln Chafee?
O'Malley.
Chafe?
Chafee was one of them.
Yeah, O'Malley. Jim Webb, the guy who threw the grenade back to a Vietnamese soldier or something like that.
Yeah.
Can you believe that fucking guy?
That dude was a little bit crazy.
Yeah. No, there's Chafee, O'Malley, Webb,
and Lawrence Lessig temporarily.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if
that's
he counts.
Right.
He got screwed so thoroughly.
Well, yeah. Well, that's what you get for being somebody who's trying to be revolutionary inside the system,
right?
Because he was, and I remember a lot of people getting mad at him. Or mad at Cenk Uygur for endorsing him and saying, no, that's my guy.
Right.
Before Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, because I actually wasn't a fan. I liked what he was doing, but I think he would have had a better shot, not to go off on a tangent, if he wasn't a referendum president and he just wanted to be the president. I think that wasn't going to fly because American politics is very personality driven. So if you're just going to be like, this guy's going to jump in and, bail on us, that's not like, you're not going to get any traction.
Right. Yeah, no, don't be a referendum president. If you're going to be president, you don't half-ass it. Put your whole ass in.
Right, and I get it. I would want to be president, but I mean, either you do want to, do that to change the system, or you figure out a different way.
Right. And that's, usually outside pressure would be like outside pressure in a more activist role.
Right.
That would be the best way to go if you're going for that. But yeah, I mean, if you want to be president, as you just said, be a president, and don't just one issue it. Like, there are multiple issues. There's more to being president than just one thing, and at least that's something that Bernie Sanders did well. Yes, I talk about Medicare for all being my main issue. That's because it is.
Yeah, same.
But there was Medicare for all, and there was Green New Deal, living wage, all these different policy proposals from Bernie Sanders that were incredibly detailed. He wanted to be president. And so maybe the first time he maybe didn't. And I don't necessarily know about that, certainly, but people have made that argument that, well, he didn't really want to. He just wanted to raise awareness. And then, he took off, lightning in a bottle, etc. But this time, 2020, he wanted to win. He was in it to win it.
Yeah.
Right? And, I mean, he still went the reformist route and wasn't even, like, he made so many campaign mistakes.
Yeah.
Not mistakes on policy, but just campaign mistakes. And if it had been somebody, and this is the problem leftists are seeing right now, right? There's no de facto leader because we don't have trust. We don't trust anybody enough to be our leader.
Right.
And I'm being totally like 100%. Like, a lot of people, a lot of my viewers are like, Howie Hawkins 2020. I was like, who? I'm sorry, I ain't gonna give my vote to some fucking rando. Like, no offense to Howie Hawkins, right? I'm sure he's a lovely guy, but who the fuck are you? I don't know you. Yeah, you like I haven't been following your career for 8 years because I've been actually 10 years. because that's how long that I've known, about Bernie Sanders, right? And so it takes that level of trust in the progressive movement. You have to be consistent. You have to be there for a long time. And that's the other thing. Like, that's why I couldn't vote for Jill Stein, right? It's like she pops up every 4 years. Like, that's fine. I agree with your policy positions, but I don't know you. Like, where did you come from, and where do you go every 4 years?
Well, that's the thing that I think made Bernie so special, is because
Right.
nobody in politics has that 40-year record. Like, that's why there is, the left is kind of a leaderless movement, and it's not like Bernie will just disintegrate. Yeah. But, that level of consistency is almost unheard of, right? And I most likely will be voting for Howie Hawkins, because I did kind of follow some of his early activism after I learned about him.
Oh, sure.
But, I'm not necessarily thinking that he's going to be the president and voting for him. I just live in Oregon and fuck Joe Biden. But, right. The trust issue is so key. And
it's important.
Progressives are inherently skeptical because the system does co-opt. It does corrupt. So if you aren't skeptical, then you're going to get duped. And coming out of, a post-Obama era, if you're not skeptical, you're going to get steamrolled. So you have to basically assume the worst about everyone and hope for the best. And that's why there's nobody that even is close to Bernie in terms of credibility. It's so tough to think about who's going to be the next leader. I mean, we all look to AOC as the next person, to carry the torch, but she's just getting started. She has years and years of work to put in to prove that as a president, she can be effective. Because I think what we're kind of learning out of this election is that having the right policy positions, that is key. That's key. But it's not enough. Bernie had all of the right policy positions, and he already knew that he was more popular. So this time, 2020 wasn't necessarily about promoting those policies. Of course you do that, right? You make it a policy-centric campaign. Of course. But you play politics, and that's rule number one. You play politics, you be aggressive, you get everyone to, explain themselves why they're the ones not meeting you at your level, because Bernie did dictate this policy. Everyone was arguing on his terms, but still, he was the one who was mostly on the defensive. And maybe that's just because he was always attacked by the media and he had more candidates against him. There's a lot more centrists than there were progressives. Sure. But this should have been a really, really strategic and savvy campaign. And I can't necessarily say that everything he did, was wrong, because he was leading for a while. But my biggest gripe is that after March 3rd, after Super Tuesday, that race was different. Everything changed at that moment. You throw out the old playbook. And the fact that after that he said Joe Biden could win, I mean, I don't know what to say about that. It's one of the worst blunders, I think, in campaign history.
Yeah, it's... well, I mean, is it Dukakis in the tank blunder?
I don't. It might be up there. You just
pretty bad,
especially when it's not true, right? There's no way Bernie thinks that Joe Biden can win. I mean, maybe now with COVID-19, but pre-COVID, I mean, did anyone on the left think that he could win? How? You'd have to be stupid to think that. He's Joe Biden.
Right. But here's the other thing too. Bernie being a reformist and being somebody who is really nice. Right? It's one of those things where he knows that he's got to be nice like that. And also, I think he, has a lot of respect for Joe Biden. I think he likes Joe Biden as a person, as a friend. And so that's the thing that, should be talked about when it comes to, because I do get tired of the conspiracy. Oh, Bernie Sanders sold out. He's a sheepdog.
Oh, no way.
He actually literally likes Joe Biden. He thinks he's a good guy because he's worked with him before. I don't necessarily agree. I don't know Joe Biden. Nobody knows. Who knows Joe Biden? Other than somebody who's, I guess, worked with him for years. But then again, with all the outrageous lies Joe Biden tells on a constant basis, who really knows?
Yeah.
Right? But it's that, it's that thing. And he knows, if he says something wrong, if he says something negative, that he's going to be blamed for imperiling the eventual nominee.
Yeah.
And I think at some point Bernie Sanders knew that after Super Tuesday, he wasn't going to win. He knew that was kind of the first nail in the coffin. And so it's like, well, I can't say things. I can't just go burn it down, even though a lot of us would cheer. We'd love it. Get the popcorn, guys. Grandpa's going ham. But we like he's like, I can't. Like, I already lived through 4 years of being blamed for Hillary Clinton's loss when I had nothing to do with it because I decided to go a little critical on her, right? He didn't even go as critical as he should have.
Mm-hmm.
But if I even slightly tweak Joe Biden, I'm going to get blamed for another 4 years of Donald Trump. I don't want to do that. If another 4 years of Donald Trump's going to happen, at least it ain't going to be my fucking fault. Now, they're still going to try to find a way to blame him or blame us, as they've done before, because they can't actually ever, own up to their mistakes.
Right.
But he's trying so hard to not get blamed. And so you kind of understand, like, I get it. I get why you'd say that. But in a campaign, again, Bernie's not ruthless. Joe Biden is absolutely ruthless. He'll do whatever the fuck it takes to win.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes Bernie Sanders a completely different politician. And that's one reason we love him. And another reason we're like, oh, God damn it, Bernie.
Yeah.
It's such a double-edged kind of sword.
Oh, totally.
And
it's the kind of person you want in power, but a person who can't get power.
Yes. That's a perfect explanation for this.
Yeah, I agree with you when you say Bernie, like, for people who say he's a sellout or a sheepdog, that's not correct. This really is just, on a human level, Bernie does not want to be blamed for Donald Trump getting reelected. He doesn't want that on his conscience, right? Because he is a good person. He wants to reduce harm. It's not about sheepdogging. It's about him just trying to be as good as he can be.
Harm reduction. And that gets us, of course, to the conversation about, like, people voting for Joe Biden, even with the many problems of Joe Biden.
Right.
Right? Or versus people who don't. So now I've taken the stance of, if you don't want to vote for Joe Biden, good for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to shame anybody. We're not. I can't even say with any sort of certainty that I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. Are you kidding me? No, he's got to do a lot. I think he's got a lot to prove. I don't even know if I'm ever going to believe him,
right?
Because he does have that history of fucking outrageous lies. But then I also look at, like, the disaster that is Donald Trump in the COVID era. 86,000 Americans that are dead. And I've got to think, I don't know, something's got to be better than this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we're all in this really, really difficult, really hard position, right? And I think the last thing that we need to do is punch left.
Totally.
Right? We need to, we all don't have to be on the same page, right? As far as where our votes are going to go.
Exactly.
But if you vote for Howie Hawkins, or if you're like Kyle and says, fuck it, I'm not going to vote. You know what? You do you, brother.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
what it
with
should
you.
be.
I'm
do
with
you,
you
brother.
there. Because here's the thing, like, this conversation doesn't need to divide the left, because either way, like, this entire election is lose-lose. Like, if Trump is reelected and we get Trump for another 4 years, that's awful. We lose. If Biden gets Trump out, we got Trump out, but at the same time, the only good that's going to come out of a Biden administration is a possible Ruth Bader Ginsburg replacement. So we're still doing work either way. So I don't want to, really get into the weeds of, well, you have to vote blue or don't.
Right.
For me, the way that I've kind of handled this on my channel is I've said, look, I'm not voting for Joe Biden. I'll most likely vote for Howie Hawkins. But here's the thing. If I were in a swing state, I would reassess what I'm going to do, but I can't judge anyone for making a decision that is, if you can't vote for Joe Biden, for me, I kind of feel like privileged, right? I don't like the electoral system, but I'm using it to my advantage in a deep blue state to not vote for Joe Biden. But I can't say that, like, oh, well, you have to vote for Joe Biden, because I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden, and I'm in Oregon.
Right.
I think people just have to do, if you're on the left, what you think is best for you, because we're not going to convince anyone. Like, anyone who we're talking to, they are so committed, they're so knowledgeable about the issues that I don't think it's going to be beneficial if we try to bludgeon each other over something that in the long run isn't really going to matter to the left. That might be a little bit of an understatement, because the election is important, it does matter, but what I'm trying to say is, like, to broader left goals, we shouldn't divide ourselves into different factions because of this. When Joe Biden is shit,
Right.
Trump is shit, let's all just agree to disagree, and let's get through this election, and then let's rethink about what we did wrong, what we need to do going forward, and let's fucking give hell to whoever the president is and take over the
Exactly.
Democratic Party, form some sort of outside coalition, get electoral
Yes.
reform. We just need action and not to be divided. That's kind of like what I want to do
Exactly.
going forward. And I don't know what the action is. Like, we're all kind of, just dealing with the loss still. And once the dust settles, maybe it'll be clear. But I just think that the left should try to stay together as much as they can. But I mean, like you said, we're all skeptical, and we have a reason to be skeptical. Capitalism puts us all against each other, and it makes us skeptical. It makes, us hate each other. It's like we've been conditioned to treat each other not as like fellow comrades, but as competitors, who are always in it for themselves. So as long as like the left can somehow hold this huge coalition that Bernie was able to put together, I think we do have the capacity to do something good. I don't know what that's going to be, but it's got to be better than this.
Absolutely. No, that's perfect. I couldn't agree more with you on that. I think that's a good place to end this.
Sure.
Those are wonderful, inspiring words.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me, Mike.
Of course.
This was awesome. This was a lot of fun. I'd love to have you back
anytime.
Later on.
Anytime. Yeah.
That's so great. It was a great conversation. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this at home as well. Here's the thing. Here's the Thing was made possible by your generous donations through patreon.com/TYTNation. Sign up to become a patron and get early access to today's episode. That's patreon.com/TYTNation.